Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished participants, finally we came to the third session, which is the last session for today's event. And this session is about sharing experiences. So welcome you all to this panel. And it is a great honor for me to be here today to chair this final panel. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our co-host, SETA, for organizing the important event today with JICA. And this panel is of particular importance during the time when post-2015 development agenda has become a major concern of the development community. As such, I'm quite sure that this panel will serve as a useful platform for exchange ideas, lessons learned, and successful approaches and practices. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a well-known fact that today that we are facing fast-changing landscape of development cooperation. Emerging donors, new donors, and NGOs are playing increasing role, and we have been in search of more inclusive and flexible model that allow us to go beyond the north and south divide, add modalities, knowledge sharing, and how traditional and emerging new donors alike adapt their strategies, structures, and priorities have drawn worldwide attention. Against this background, to promote experience sharing among emerging players, new players, such as South Korea, Mexico, China, Argentina. I'm sorry to say our participant from Argentina couldn't make it because she missed the connecting flight to Turkey. But anyway, I should mention the name here. And other established traditional donors like Japan and Germany, and multilateral donors like Islamic Development Bank, and international NGOs such as Muslim Aid, is the goal of this important event. Of course, to encourage traditional and new donors to support inclusive multilateral discourse on development cooperation is another aim of this event. In Turkey, we have a saying, experiences get more value as you share it with others. So we need to share our experiences to learn from each other, not repeat the same mistakes, so that we can improve the lives of children, women, and men around the world in a sustainable manner. So let us continue sharing and growing together. Having said this, I'm fully confident today's panel will help us to reach common grounds in identifying challenges we are facing today and its possible solutions through changing experiences. And before continue, I would like to introduce our distinguished panelists. We have 5 distinguished panelists here today. And before giving floor to them, I would like to introduce to you one by one, because some of you may not have their biographies before you. The first speaker is Mr. Gerardo BRACHO, who is the Special Advisor to the Executive Director of AMEXCID, which is a Mexican Development Agency, Cooperation Agency. And he has served as a DAC delegate of Mexico for many years, which makes him very unique. And I'm quite sure that he will share with us Mexican experiences in aiding Central American countries. The second speaker is Mr. Manazir AHSAN, who's sitting to the left of me, who is the president of Muslim Aid based in London, which is a very big international NGO, has 15 branches all over the world, and they extends aid to many countries, mostly Islamic countries, who are in need of help. And I'm quite certain that he will share with us NGO perspective on sustainable development. Third speaker is Madam Mayumi ENDOH, who is the Chief Resident of JICA, Turkey office, and she has been working in the area of international development for more than 20 years. Her overseas assignments include the Philippines and Bangladesh. Earlier in her career, she has also worked as World Bank in Washington, D.C. Given her vast experiences in development cooperation, I'm sure we're going to get from her valuable insights for this panel. The fifth speaker is Mr. TAESTENSEN, Country Director of GIZ Turkey, here. And prior to GIZ, Mr. TAESTENSEN worked as Senior Advisor to Minister of Education in Schleswig-Holstein, Germany, and also as a director of school association. Given his in-depth knowledge on the ground, I'm quite certain that he will provide us a good knowledge on the where we stand in terms of sustainable development. Last speaker is Mr. Zhu Guangyao, who is the Economic and Trade Council of Embassy of People's Republic of China in Turkey. And prior to his appointment to Turkey, he was in charge of cooperation with international organizations, bilateral organizations in China's Ministry of Commerce. As China's long-standing donor for many years, I'm sure Mr. Zhu will give us in-depth knowledge on Chinese experience with development cooperation. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to give the floor to the first speaker, Mr. Gerardo BRACHO. The floor is yours.
Well, first of all, I would like to thank TICA for inviting us to give this talk. As you heard, we are now having a very close relation with TICA. TICA is opening its first Latin American office in Mexico. So we are very happy for that, and I'm sure that that's going to serve as the hub for TICA to start spreading its influence in Central and Latin America. So thank you very much. I have my presentation is about, I will talk about the recent trends in Mexico development cooperation. I will probably start by situating the Mexican experience in relation to other speakers that have spoken before. We heard a bit about the Korean experience, we heard about the Turkish experience, and just let me tell you that in contrast, especially with Korea, for example, Mexico was never really a recipient country, a strong recipient country. When the aid industry began in the 1960s, Mexico was considered almost on the brink of becoming a developed country. We had a per capita income higher than Spain, for example. And also, as the Deputy Prime Minister today remind us, as you remember, in those times, aid was giving very much in terms of power between the USSR and the USA during the Cold War. And Mexico was not a hot spot. So all the money was going elsewhere, to Korea, et cetera, and other hot spots at the time. But not to Mexico, because we were considered almost a developed country and because we were not a very important piece in the Cold War. So that's one big difference. And then, unfortunately, the other big difference is that we stayed a bit like we were in 1960s, while countries like Korea just surpassed us, coming from a very low-income country to become a high-income country today. So. Unfortunately, we didn't, the expectations that there were created in 1960 about Mexico's development didn't fructify. But having said this, Mexico has been a provider of development cooperation in the very traditional South-South type of schemes for many decades. But also, all this in the tradition of Bandung and the tradition of the Buenos Aires plan, technical cooperation, piecemeal technical cooperation. But in the last years, probably a bit late if you compare with what has been done, of course, in Turkey and Brazil and in other countries, but in the last few years, there have been a number of institutional reforms that really had created the platform for Mexican development cooperation to start lifting up. You don't hear very much about Mexico as an emerging donor because, frankly speaking, we haven't been as active as other countries, but we are now on the threshold. And what has happened in the last years that has put us in this threshold? First, in 2010, we adopted the law on international development cooperation. This is very important because, for example, we had at some point in the 90s, we had an agency, we had created an agency, but because it was not grounded in a law, in a federal law, the foreign minister at the time in 2000 just decided that this agency was not probably useful in his idea, so he got rid of this. And now we have a law, and with the law, it's much more complicated to change things. So that law was created in 2010. Thanks to this law, we created our agency, AMEXCID. AMEXCID is like the TICA of Mexico. This was created in 2011. And finally, what I would say the third element of this new platform for Mexican development cooperation to lift up was the ascendance of a new government in 2013 that has as its motto the firm resolution to acquire global responsibilities. So we have now a law, we have an agency, we have a government that wants to be much kind of forward-looking in terms of foreign policy. And I think we have more or less the panorama for lifting up our development cooperation. Now, with AMEXCID in place, we have been doing things that probably Turkey did also much before us, because, you know, TICA, as we heard today, was created in 2005. So it's, no, sorry, 1992. But in 2005 already, TICA was creating a system of accounting for, that's what I heard. Probably I'm wrong on the date, but some years ago, they already managed to know how much aid they were giving. In Mexico, we just did this last year because as many other Latin American providers of South-South cooperation, what we do is basically we do technical cooperation. We send our technicians, our experts here and there, but we didn't know how much money that costs. So we only use projects as our unit of account. And you know that projects are very, I mean, you can have a project that costs 200 million or 20 million and another project that's just an airline ticket. So to some project, one project with another doesn't make much sense unless you know how much you're spending. You really know you will be in a position to do better aid and to start monitoring and to start evaluating, etc. So we have that now in place. We have a system of accounting, and now we are also getting into another aspect that we have not really tackled before, which is the issue of evaluation and of monitoring what we do. Especially evaluation, because, I mean, before we did this very piecemeal technical cooperation, and sometimes, and if you imagine, if you do a small project of $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000, I mean, you don't want to spend as much money in evaluating this small project. So you have to really create a culture of evaluation that's really related to your own level of cooperation. And then finally, another issue that we didn't have and we are starting to have is a much more systematic relation with NGOs, with the academy, with the private sector, with foundations, and with the academic community. So institutional building is going in the last 2, 3, 4 years very strongly and very rapidly in AMEXCID. Another aspect of our system, which has been, I would say, has been more prominent for many years, is our diplomatic role in this agenda. For example, today we heard Isalin was reminding us the relation between the DAC and the emerging donors. Well, I must say that Mexico is a member, as you know, of the OECD. Member is an observer of the DAC, the same as Turkey. And Mexico and Turkey had been the only observers of the South in the DAC for many years. And I must say that we have, I mean, I'm talking for Mexico, but I'm sure also about Turkey, because I was a DAC delegate for many years and I know this issue very well. We, in Mexico, were making an effort to bring the issue of South-South cooperation within the DAC. We have been working for making a space for the South-South cooperation providers in the DAC for many years. And finally, as a result of this, many of you might know, but this last year, in April 2014, Mexico organized the first meeting of the Global Partnership for Effective Development Cooperation. So we have been very active in the diplomatic side. And now Mexico, those who know also, is playing a very active role in the post-2015 Sustainable Development Goals and Finance for Development negotiations. So, I mean, trying to sum what I've been saying so far, we have been advancing a lot in terms of institutional building, AMEXCID, the accounting, the issue of evaluation and the relations with other actors, and we have been doing even for longer all the issue of being very active in the diplomatic side. Now, so far, I already said this, but our cooperation is mostly, as has been for many decades, technical, scientific, and cultural cooperation done by line ministries. I think that that's probably the way that Turkey worked for many years before the last years that they have been doing much more diversifying things. But we are now starting to diversify our instruments. We are now going to start to giving financial cooperation, which is also going to play a more prominent role. I would just put a footnote here, because it's not going to be in the short run, because now with the fall of oil prices, we are not in a very good shape to give financial cooperation, but financial cooperation is going to be in our portfolio, I hope, when we pass this crisis. And just to finalize my presentation, I would like to just present you very roughly and not in a very detailed way, three projects that I think are very interesting in the sense that they are quite innovative. The first project that I'm going to speak about very quickly is this Mesoamerican public health system. This is a project that's encompassed within a much larger program that's called the Proyecto Mesoamérica. Some of those that know where does this concept comes, the concept from Mesoamerica, is a concept that actually encompasses from the north of Mexico up to the end of Central America. And that was more or less the regions where the pre-Hispanic cultures developed. And we have this Proyecto Mesoamérica, which means a program that wants to develop the whole region as a whole, as a whole, because the northern Mexico is quite different. It's much more developed and doesn't have this Indian roots. So this Proyecto Mesoamérica encompasses the south of Mexico and encompasses also the Central American countries. And within this Proyecto Mesoamérica, we have this Mesoamerican public health system, which has been supported, and I'm coming to the interesting part. It has been supported by the Gates Foundation, the Slim Foundation. You know, Carlos Slim is this Mexican billionaire that sometimes appears as as the most rich man in the world. It's not, I mean, we are not very proud of this, because it's just a symbol of the inequality that we have in our country. But anyhow, this Slim Foundation is helping this Mesoamerican public health system. And we have also the Spanish Cooperation Agency. So, I mean, the interesting thing about this program is that we have federal governments, regional governments, a northern foundation, a southern foundation, and a traditional donor, which is Spain. So you can see in one program that you have North-South cooperation, South-South cooperation, triangular cooperation, private-public partnership in one single program. I think that's quite interesting and innovative. And the second program I want to talk about is what we call this Mexican Chile Fund. This is a fund, you know, where Mexico puts some money and Chile puts some money, and this fund finances programs that you can apply either in Chile or in Mexico. And actually this fund has been very, very successful in promoting the cooperation between Chile and Mexico. And this is really, let's say, cooperation in the most traditional way of the South-South paradigm of horizontal cooperation between countries that are more or less the same. And they work within the paradigm of Bandung and the paradigm of Buenos Aires, where we use this concept of horizontality. And that's a quite traditional issue, but the important issue, the interesting issue about this Mexico-Chile fund is that this fund is now used to finance projects in third countries. Now, this fund has been used to finance projects in Salvador and Honduras, and in IT also. So it's Chile and Mexico teaming together to help some Central American countries, which is also quite interesting. It's something like South-South-South triangular cooperation, something that you don't hear very much. You have usually this North-South triangular cooperation, but two countries of the South helping another country of the South. I think this is also quite interesting, and Chile, the Mexican-Chile Fund is doing now this. And finally, to conclude my presentation, I would like to talk about this Coneval experience. Coneval is an autonomous organization, an autonomous unit, decentralized unit, which evaluates poverty. It gives you an idea of which are the elements that you have to say that you have certain. That you have poverty in your country. Usually poverty in the most normal way, you define poverty as a certain level of per capita income. No, if you have minus $2, I think it's if you have an income of less than $2 a day, then you're considered poor. Well, what Coneval does comes with the idea that this is not enough. That poverty, you cannot define poverty only with one indicator, which is the per capita one. But you need probably other indicators where the access you have to goods, the access you have to global goods, amenities, education, health. So Coneval, this Mexican institution, has come with what it calls a multidimensional definition of poverty. And some of you that have been following the international agenda know that many countries are not very happy with the idea of defining poverty only by per capita income. For example, there's a whole discussion of middle-income countries where you say, well, they are still very poor, probably not in per capita income, but there are lots of problems also development problems that they face. Well, to make the story short, and I finish with this, Coneval has been very successful. There are lots of demand for the experience of Coneval. And AMEXCID has been helping Coneval to share its knowledge. And of course, it started with Latin America. All the most Mexican cooperation is concentrated in Latin America, and especially in Central America. But then finally, what is important for us, probably not for you, because Turkey has offices all over the world, but for us, thanks to Coneval, finally we are reaching Africa. And Coneval has been making, teaming already with institutions in Africa to share its knowledge in South Africa, Ghana, Benin, and Uganda. So thanks to Coneval, Mexico is getting finally away from the Central America region and into Africa. So this is what I wanted to share with you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Gerardo. Thank you for inspiring statement. And Gerardo, he told us that Mexico was hardly a recipient country in 1960s because Mexico was considered as a developed country during the Cold War. And Mexico has been providing aid in the context of South-South cooperation. And also he mentioned about Mexico just passed a law in 2010 due to the need of structural changes by creating AMEXCID in 2011. And Mexico started its data collection from 2014, which is quite a very encouraging move for Mexico. Congratulations. And Gerardo also underlined the importance of April ministerial meeting 2014 in Mexico City, which is the follow-up to the Busan process adopted in 2011 about global partnership for effective development cooperation. And he also said about Mexico's active role in formulating post-2015 development agenda. And finally, he also mentioned, he talked about 3 projects implemented by Mexico with other countries. The first one is the Central American Health Project. Second is about Mexican-Chile Fund, which is aiming at financing the projects both in Mexico and also in Chile in the paradigm of South-South cooperation based on the principles of Bandung and Buenos Aires. And also they are targeting third countries, kind of trilateral cooperation for other countries. And this is the second one. The third project mentioned about is Cornwall Unit project, which is aiming the poverty reduction. And they are also right now sharing knowledge with some African countries. Thank you very much, Gerardo, for your intervention, for your statement. Now, before I turn to our next speaker, I'd like to make an announcement. Right after this session, we're going to go straight to the dinner. So just for information, about 6:30 p.m. Now I'd like to invite our second speaker, Mr. Manazir AHSAN, to deliver his statement. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed, the Chair. In the name of God, the merciful and the mercy-giving, may I also take this opportunity of greeting all of you with an Islamic greeting, which is called Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. May God's blessings and peace be on all of you, including myself. It's my pleasure to attend this unique one-day conference, international conference, and we are grateful not only to the Office of the Prime Minister, but in particular TICA and SETA, who has taken the opportunity of inviting a galaxy of scholars, as well as those who are in profession, to discuss about this issue of developing aid and what is its future. I think this is a timely conference, and as we have heard in the morning session, the Deputy Prime Minister has now given us a huge, of course, information, thoughts and ideas in how Turkey itself is engaged in this honorable work for many, of course, years. I must apologize that I am not an economist by profession. I am, of course, as a student of Islamic studies, and I did my PhD in Muslim history. It's a long time ago. And I'm also, in the UK, there are 2,500 charities, both run by Muslims, non-Muslim, faith-based and non-faith-based. There are around 250 NGOs are run by Muslims of different denominations. Out of that, of course, the Muslim Aid is the second largest charity, which has been working in the UK as well as all over the world, globally, for the last 30 years. It has a board of, large board of, trustees of 20, and alhamdulillah, with the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have been able to do the work, of course, to provide assistance through humanitarian relief and development aid, whatever, of course, the calamity or man-made or natural has affected. Before I give a brief description of the activities of Muslim Aid in the field of development, may I take this opportunity to say a few words about the present capitalistic system of development aid, which although is very helpful and gives priority to the economy, it completely overlooks the social dimension and fails to address the requirements of self-respect, honor, and dignity of its recipients. In this capitalistic model, efficiency becomes the key word, not justice and human well-being. In hindsight, one must accept that the model of development aid so far has not been able to facilitate the mobilization of the resources to transform societies and help people to become independent, managing and controlling their own resources, thus beginning a new chapter in their lives. Instead, statistics show that more than 2 billion people are today living on less than $1.50 a day. 800 million are suffering from acute hunger. Nearly 1 billion are unable to read a book, and half of the world's children live in acute poverty. On the other hand, only 1% of the world population control 47% of the world's wealth, and 22 developed countries with only 20% of the world's population possess 87% of the world GDP. These disparities cause the greatest challenge to humanity. The generation of wealth is a good thing, provided it assists the well-being of all members of society and saves them from tensions, conflict, violence, of course, discrepancies, and vagaries of war. Peace can only be achieved through the establishment of economic and social justice together. In view of this, the purpose of development aid should be immediate relief to ensure that all sufferings can be redressed and reduced. Aid should be instrumental in the real empowerment and capacity building of people, enabling them to attain sustainable national development, ensuring the maximum utilization of resources. This will help to achieve the welfare and well-being of all members of society in all parts of the world, irrespective of their ethnicity, race, religion, or gender. Perhaps we need to revisit, and also the Deputy Prime Minister also insisted, to revisit and change the concept of development aid and modalities in order to transform it into reality. Development efforts should be directed towards mobilization of domestic resources, both material and human. Instead of the elitist approach to development, every effort should be made to make it participatory, enabling all members of society to play a role in building their economic and political future. Development, after all, is about transforming society and improving the lives of the poor, ensuring everyone has access to health care and education. For this purpose, education, healthcare, and other sectors, as well as the earning of a fair wage or minimum wage and equitable distribution of wealth and opportunities, will contribute major planks of development. Instead of creating a scenario of permanent dependency, development aid should be directed towards self-reliance. Development should be aimed at improving all aspects, including material, moral, ethical, and social, and also ecological and environmental dimensions of human life should not be neglected. Several studies show that the real beneficiaries of development aid have been, in many cases, the donor country rather than the recipients. This has to be changed. The priorities and requirements of the recipient country should be the primary concern rather than the interest of the donor country. A new understanding, a new equation needs to be developed in this respect. This is why it is important that priorities should change and the developed and developing countries should participate as partners in an exercise to reformulate the whole model of foreign aid in the future. I do not want to get into political controversy, but I would like to share with you two major news reports that have been released in the last fortnight. The first report was about the Syrian uprising. 220,000 have been killed during the last 4 years since the conflict began, and 4.8 million people live in refugee camps in areas which is hard to reach. The aid agencies are pleading for support and knocking at the doors of the Security Council to fulfill their pledges made over the years, but not enough has been done to protect their lives, and offer them whatever the minimum requirements. On the other hand, The IMF has been generous enough to promise $17.5 billion to Ukraine to save it from economic collapse. And a donor conference in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt has promised $142 billion to Egypt, $92 billion in MOUs, and $17 billion in aid and grants. $12.5 billion has been given from the Gulf of countries, and $5 billion from European countries. This shows the disparity between nations and the skewed priorities when it comes to development aid. Muslim aid prioritizes development aid and response to emergencies as they happen, alongside carrying out long-term projects. Despite the many challenges faced by international NGOs in delivering aid to complex emergencies, the charity demonstrates a smooth transition from humanitarian aid to development aid, providing primary education in conflict areas, including Myanmar, Pakistan, and other places, pioneering community development initiatives, and providing financial services in the form of loans and grants for entrepreneurs and a small business lacking access to banking and related services. In developing countries, while the work of Muslim aid is vast, I would like to focus on the area of microfinance, as it is a crucial means of social development. Muslim Aid's microfinance program is based on Sharia principles, which aims to be equitable and justifiable resource distribution. The program is purely a social mission intended to economically empower poor and low-income people in developing countries. This aid program began in 1993 in Bangladesh, and following its initial success, it was set up in 6 of its field offices in Cambodia, in, of course, many other countries, and developing world in 2007. You will be pleased to learn that all the loans are collateral and interest-free. We don't charge any interest on this, and there is no collateral is required. And we provide the beneficiaries with the formal training and courses to raise their awareness about issues that affect them. The training programs that are available enable them to acquire skills relating to agriculture, fisheries, then of course poultry, dairy, home gardening, nursery, and small business management. Motivational activities include courses to raise awareness on water, sanitation, hygiene and health, tree plantation, giving up smoking, dowry-free marriage, which is, of course, a plague in the subcontinent, Indo-Pak, among other aspects. These loans and grants have thus far helped 50,000 beneficiaries and their families, and the total amount of revolving fund is about £5 million, which is about 7 million or 6 million, 6.5 in the dollar. This is just one example of creative solution for a sustainable project that mobilizes the resources and skills of local people to empower them within their societies. And we're also doing, along with this looking after the orphanages, or whether they have become orphans through the war or through of course, natural disasters, through the name Rainbow Family. And thousands of orphans, we have been able to give them the protection, the education, the care, as well as whatever they require in different parts of the world. This is one of the special activities which has been taken by the Muslim Aid and has been very, very successful. Yes, I'm just coming to conclude now, that as I said, aid is a kind of a raindrop in the ocean, and Muslim aid is also a drop in the global aid ocean, but it is a significant drop, and it is a time that we work together and make development aid more rewarding and effective for the transformation of economy and society, and make it more dynamic, prosperous, just, stable, self-sustainable, and self-reliant. May I remind in the morning when the Deputy Prime Minister used the word bir, and of course which was explained more by our colleague Mansour FETEN. This is again in the Quran. It's very small verse. Let me recite and conclude this. The Quran says that of course, I mean, the two things, two words they say, that is bir and taqwa and ismal udwan. This is two words positive and two words negative has been used. That of course you should cooperate with each other with good work, of which is virtuous work, and which brings awareness of God, and don't enter into sinful work, as well as something which comes to the connotation of arrogance, and of course a kind of something which is not pleasant. So this is again a message which has been given by many of the colleagues and speakers, and I would like to join them, and I hope that of course this conference will be successful in the aims and objectives. Thank you very much indeed.
Well, thank you, Mr. Ahsan, for your excellent statement, and I also thank you for starting your speech by referring to His Excellency, the Deputy Prime Minister of Turkey, Mr. Numan Kurtulmuş, to his this morning's speech. And he said Muslim Aid is second largest Muslim NGO institutions in the world. And he highlighted his understanding of development cooperation. Unfortunately, he said 2 million people right now in the world living under $1.5 a day. And 22 developed countries control roughly 80% of human world capital. And I think he pointed out the reality of aid, why we are aiding the countries in need of aid. And he also called for a new approach targeting new real poor people through mobilizing all societies, all institutions. And he also emphasized the spirit of self-reliance, self-resilience of the countries, the people in need of help. And he focused on the environmental dimension as well. And he mentioned about the human tragedy right now going on in Syria. And he criticized the developed world of staying aloof to the human tragedies caused by the Syrian crisis, while IMF promised general aid package for Ukraine. So it is a little bit controversial. And he said about the microfinance, this is a very crucial for the, tool for the Muslim countries for the development. And because according to the Islamic law, the interest is no interest rate is charged. And this is started first in Bangladesh. I thank you again. And for your excellent statement. Now we move to third speaker, Madam Mayumi ENDOH. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Nurdin. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. My name is Mayumi ENDOH, and I'm the Chief Representative of JICA Turkey office based in Ankara. Using this opportunity, I'd like to thank TICA, who's our close development partner and our long-term friend, for organizing this very timely and relevant event. Thank you very much. So JICA, or Japan International Cooperation Agency, is a bilateral development agency that was created in early 1960s. And right now we are the largest bilateral donor agency, and our commitment exceeds $10 billion US, just looking at loan commitment. And if we include grant and technical assistance commitment, it exceeds $15 billion US. But what makes us special is not the size, but the fact that we have 3 schemes, grant, technical assistance, and concessional loans. And we combine all these 3 schemes to bring about most effective assistance package for our recipient countries. Although we are a Japanese agency, we are present all over the world. With more than 92 offices globally, including 28 liaison offices, and we operate in more than 150 countries. Our vision is dynamic and inclusive development, and our assistance strategy is based on this vision. In Turkey, we have been present for over 55 years. During these years, we have provided various technical assistance and loans to Turkey. Some of the well-known projects are Golden Horn Bridge, which is one of the oldest projects built in 1970s, early 1970s, and Second Bosphorus Bridge, which completed in late 1980s, and more recently, Marmaray Tube Tunnel Project, which was inaugurated in October 2013 by then Prime Minister Erdogan and our Prime Minister Abe at that time. And this Marmaray project, which is a $2 billion US dollar project, is highly claimed as in terms of engineering aspect, and it's called an engineering project of the century, and it has been widely featured in international media, and it's also been a documentary in such as National Geographic and Discovery Channel. So if you have a chance, I hope you get to look at this significant project, the documentary of this significant project. In recent years, our relationship with Turkey has evolved, and we believe that we have come to a new stage in our activities with Turkey, which is defined by partnership more than assistance. Here, during this session of practical experience, I'd like to share with you 3 different kinds of partnership that we have in Turkey. So the first kind of partnership is learning from each other or helping each other kind of partnership. This is the characteristic of partnership or cooperation in the area of disaster risk management. As both Turkey and Japan share similar kind of disasters like earthquakes, we're now learning from each other's experience through different kinds of programs. Also, when actual disaster hits, we are always there for each other. We were here in Marmara earthquake in 1999, providing both humanitarian and financial assistance. And when great earthquake hit northern Japan 4 years ago, the Turkish relief team was one of the first team to come and the last to leave, and made a significant contribution to the relief effort. And second kind of partnership is a partnership in providing development aid to other countries together, or so-called North-South cooperation, or a triangular cooperation that many of the speakers have mentioned or touched upon. Based on long history of working together with the Turkish government, we have a very close relationship with the ministries. Together with TICA in these ministries, we have been jointly conducting training programs targeting neighboring countries such as Kazakhstan and Afghanistan and Kyrgyz Republic and many of the neighboring countries like that. And through these programs, courses or training programs conducted by Japanese experts are now being taught by Turkish experts. We believe Turkey is creating a very good model for this kind of third country training. This has become one of the major partnership activities here in Turkey for JICA, and we have trained almost 3,000 experts from neighboring countries together with TICA and Turkish government. Third kind of partnership is rather new, but is about tackling global challenges together. As His Excellency Deputy Prime Minister shared during his trip to Tokyo just recently, Turkey is bearing a lot of the cost of global challenges in terms of dealing with the conflicts in neighboring countries. And Turkey shouldn't be dealing with these challenges alone. In this new area, JICA hopes to build partnership so that Turkey and JICA together we can face the global challenges. So with this, I'd like to conclude my remarks. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for a short and very inspiring statement. And just to conclude her statement, first of all, I'd like to thank you very much. I really appreciate your nice words about cooperation between TICA and JICA. And Madame Mayumi mentioned about there's three mentioned about the three type of schemes of JICA of Japan. One is grant, one is concession loans, another one is technical assistance. This is the three major schemes of Japanese development cooperation. And right now, JICA is operational in 150 countries. And she also mentioned about Japanese technical cooperation in the building of Bosporus Bridge in early 1970s, 1980s. And most recently, she mentioned about the Marmara, we'll call it a tunnel project, which is worth $2 billion US. And since JICA office is operating in Turkey, and she said JICA is no longer interested about the giving aid to Turkey, but rather they are more focused in the effort on the building partnership with Turkey. And in three ways. One is disaster risk management, which means learning from each other. And she mentioned about the solidarity between Turkey and Japan in 1999 Marmara earthquake and another tsunami disaster in Japan in recent years. And the second is triangular cooperation modality between Turkey and Japan for the through cooperation between JICA and TICA for the neighboring countries, for the Central Asian countries, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, and those countries in need of assistance. And she also said in the past, this kind of capacity training program was conducted by Japanese experts, but in recent years, the trainers has become the Turkish trainers. So this is a very encouraging sign. I'm so happy to learn about that. And lastly, she also mentioned the third one is about the Turkey and Japan, join hands to face the global challenges, So this is the main themes of the speech delivered by Madame Asumi. Thank you very much. And now let's come to the last not least speaker, fourth speaker, Mr. Carl TAESTENSEN. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Nordun. Let me say that already now I would like to say a positive perception is, of course, that in many of these contributions we have heard today, there's a clear line and a common understanding where the shortcomings are and where we will have to have the focus in future. So I think already now we can say there have been quite some lessons learned where to follow up with further discussions, and I think this has been a very good initiative from TICA and CETA, which I would like to say thank you very much for. Very briefly, for those who shouldn't know, GIZ, as the German government's implementation agency, is active in 132 countries, employing 17,000 people, of whom about 70% are let's say, colleagues recruited in the respective countries. This, of course, I think is a very important fact, and we also heard it from JICA, that this, I think, is a prerequisite for cooperation based on partnership, which gives us a very good access to our partners and also understanding on the specific situation in countries. Also for GIZ, the frequent mentioned issue today, namely shifting the paradigm, is something that is very eagerly discussed. And this, of course, is very much related, as we heard today, also to, with regard to the approach to the global challenges we face. Fortunately, I must say that I also do see some indication that this shift in paradigm, to a certain extent, already has started. As my colleague from JICA said, our cooperation is not just providing aid. It is very much built up on partnership, on technical assistance in a close cooperation with the countries we are working in. So I see this as a very important development already, and as far as GIZ is concerned, our approach is very much going in the direction of enabling. The global situation and the global challenges are certainly not getting less complex, and without doubt they need not only a comprehensive view on the challenges, but moreover a comprehensive approach. And one important aspect in that perception of development cooperation certain is to look into both. We heard today about aid effectiveness, but also, fortunately, we are in the international context very much also looking into donor efficiency. This means that we are not only focusing on our partners receiving assistance, but moreover we are also focusing on the donors and how the donors deliver and how we deliver. And this is of course not only, but also of course, because it's a requirement, we are working for taxpayers' money, it is also because this is what will provide sustainability and also quality. And of course, it is also a bit more, I think it's also a bit more responsibility from our side. We do face increasingly more disparity. We have heard that in quite some inputs today. And the way we deal with disparity, let it be social, as my colleague beside me mentioned, or related to excess of resources, will certainly be the key to meet the present and the future potential for regional and even global conflicts. So we are altogether, let's say, very much in the position that we have with mutual efforts look into these challenges regarding disparity. To meet these challenges, GIZ not least focus on sectors like climate and energy. We do very eagerly look forward to get the results and the outcomes of Paris 2015. And I think this is one of the main challenges we will face, because this, of course, also could be a trigger, if we don't solve that together, to displacement of people from areas that are affected by these changes caused by climate. And that is also, from GIZ's point of view, a reason why we have to look into this issue from the point of working closely together with the private sector to provide an impact also through the private sector. And in that respect, we have in GIZ one tool we call private-public partnership. You all know that, but it's the definition of it is sometimes a bit different, I have to say. And for us, it is a possible financing tool where we can go into private-public partnerships if they are improved by the German Ministry of Technical Assistance and Development. There will be a contribution where the private sector comes in with the more hardware-related inputs, and we come in with capacity development. So in that respect, of course, as a lot of your efforts also, this is focusing very much on small and medium enterprises. Another point which is very important to meet these global challenges is to put a lot of focus on the issue of fragile states, which we do see an increasing number worldwide, and this also in the context of looking into the issue of refugees, which very often comes together with this issue. Afghanistan is very well known to all of us. I myself worked in Afghanistan from 2006 until 2011, and here I think this has brought us a lot of lessons learned how to approach problems in such a context. And to be honest, my impression in the beginning was that the actors on the ground very often kept their cards very close to the body. And as we say, donor coordination communication very often was something that was hard to reach. The lessons learned, however, throughout all of our international engagement, the international community in Afghanistan, has been that this really has improved. Of course, also due to the fact that the challenges, the situation was very complicated. But I think Afghanistan, and we can of course discuss, let's say, the effects of our efforts in that country, still Afghanistan, I see it as an area where the international community has coordinated throughout the years better, has gone into a dialogue that has been important for the further approaches also in countries that came in addition to Afghanistan, like Syria and so on. But of course, always in these fragile states, the aspect of governance, of good governance, is an important aspect for us, and that is also why we are very much looking into that. It is a prerequisite to create the proper framework of getting, let's say, the economy on the ground again. We heard about today about foreign direct investment. Foreign direct investment needs a proper framework, and it needs trust and confidence of those who invest their money. So this, I think, is a very important prerequisite where an international dialogue is also required to agree on how to approach these sector focuses. And I think many of you have had lessons learned on this topic in various programs. In GIZ, another important aspect, if not the most important aspect, is capacity development. We see it as a major tool. Sometimes it's considered a little bit as the software. However, I see it as very important, and GIZ also in that respect, because capacitating is the main input that is required to make us as international organizations redundant in the countries where we are working, and I think this should be our main aim. As we learned today, and this is very suitable as comparing this to this aspect, it's not about giving fish to our partners, it's about learning how to catch the fish, and I think this is something that goes very well together with the aspect of capacity development. To be successful, we do not only need to have a stronger, even stronger dialogue as we have it today, and this also why I agreed, let's say, the efforts, having a conference like that today very, very much. We need to have a stronger dialogue, but we also need to have a closer communication. We need platforms, we need networks, and we need it not only to ensure quality, but also to bring this innovation into development that is very much required. We need a closer and better coordination and harmonization. And even there, I think we have some good examples. For example, the cooperation with the OECD competitive program, Eurasia competitive program, but also the cooperation with the World Bank on the World Bank climate strategy. As mentioned already today, we can show promising efforts and good practices on joint approaches of donors and of international organizations. At the moment, we are working with JICA together on a memorandum to create synergies and to support each others, particularly in the area of vocational training and education. And I'm very much looking forward to that, because this is just, again, to emphasize that a already good existing cooperation is going even a step further. Another aspect we are working very much on, and this is what was required today, the international community coming together, together with the German Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the European Union, the Dutch JICA, and the Danish. We are working very much on supporting people that have been affected by the crisis in Syria. I would like, even if I only have 2 minutes, to come with one example. We have provided potato seedlings, I think they're called, and 2,000 tons. We have done capacity development with the farmers. The outcome was 40,000 tons of potatoes, which had the effect that people could buy potatoes again. 30% the prices went down after this harvest was successful. And this is what we repeat with wheat. We provide vaccines and so on. However, we have to consider the quick impact versus sustainability, and at the end of the day, everything is in vain if we do not ensure sustainability. And that is why, and this is also what GIZ very much is standing for, we need long-term commitments. We need to have infrastructure on the ground. We need the partners in the country, and this is what makes our efforts sustainable. And let me close with these remarks. Thank you very much for your patience, and thank you for having got the opportunity to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. TAESTENSEN, and for your illuminating statement. Mr. TAESTENSEN, he first of all he mentioned about we need to find our shortcomings and in the daily practice of giving aid to other countries in order to find a good solution for future aid delivery. And he started also by saying JIZ has 7,000 personnel, of which 70% colleagues are right now recruited on the ground. It is quite a remarkable figure. And the cooperation of JIZ, based on partnerships, of course in Turkey, he mentioned. And he also said that there's, he noticed there's shift of paradigms, has already started in development community, not just providing aid, but instead just, more and more through partnerships between donors and recipients, or you can call it partners, and try to enable global challenges. The aim of aid of German technical cooperation is to enable the global challenges less complex. And he also mentioned about the donor effectiveness, also the by giving him try to be more effective, because you need to while giving ODA, or you can call it ODA, because you need to be responsible for the taxpayers' money, and also at the same time you can be more responsible, and you can also raise the quality of aid. And he also mentioned about access to, he said he agreed to the argument or the approach made this morning about the need to get access to resources is the key to reduce disparity between the developed nations and the recipient countries. He mentioned also mentioned about the role of private sector by giving examples of private-public partnership. We call it PPP. And in terms of capacity development, and he also puts focuses on the fragile states, you know, those countries facing the global challenges, refugee problems, and he also said the FDI, you know, if a developed country needs to attract FDI, foreign direct investment, they need to have a proper framework to attract FDI. Also, he mentioned about the listed this several programs. One is Eurasia program, one is the cooperation with the World Bank, and also lastly he mentioned about the cooperation, the talk between GIZ and TICA. We are working from TICA side, we are working on the memorandum of understanding for the vocational training. It's in the pipeline. And lastly, he mentioned about, he give us good news about, you know, those potatoes, 2,000 tons potatoes provided for the Syrian refugees and turned out to be 4,000. So in order for them to generate income generation kind of project. Thank you very much. And the last speaker is Mr. Zhu Guangyao. He's the trade and the commercial counselor from the Embassy of People's Republic of China, of Turkey. And you know, China is the #2 economy in the world. And China has maintained 9, if I remember correctly, if I'm wrong, you can say that, maintained the growth percent 9 to 11% for last 20 years. You know, this is it's extraordinary figure. So you know, that's why they have a very rapid economic development. That's why I can assume also China is a big donor country, although it's neither an OECD member country nor the DAC member country, but it's a very influential donor in the world. So I'd like to give floor to our last speaker, Mr. Zhu Guangyao, to deliver his statement. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen and colleagues. It's my great honor to be invited here to attend this important meeting. So in this regard, I would like to thank the host organization, TICA of Turkey. You know, I have strong feeling on this subject because I used to work for the official development assistance affairs when China as a recipient country for over 10 years. That's 15 years ago. I myself is also a beneficiary of ODA. You know, I used to be attended workshops, training courses sponsored by United Nations and WTO, Canada, Australia, Singapore, and Japan. I would like to say hello to Mr. Mayumi. I used to be trained in your JICA center for 3 weeks in Tokyo. However, as mentioned by the previous speakers, the world economic environment has been changed significantly. You know, that's why we gathered here to discuss this further and share experiences with each other. I would like to start my presentation from the nature of China. As mentioned by Mr. Chairman, China is an emerging economy. It's big, and it's also big in terms of territory and population. However, China is still a developing country. In China, there are still a large population living in poverty. Their income per day is less than $2, and the GDP per capita of China is less than $7,000, and much less than Turkey. And in the United Nations development system, China is still a recipient country, not donor country. China's foreign aid, the nature of China's foreign aid is South-South cooperation rather than ODA. Although the scale of China's foreign aid is much bigger than its ODA. The ODA is received nowadays. When providing foreign aid, China adheres to the principle of not imposing any political conditions, not interfering in the internal affairs of the recipient countries. The basic principle China underholds in providing foreign aid are mutual respect, equality, keeping promise, mutual benefits, and win-wins. In addition to that, to my personal observation, there's two more features in China's foreign aid. That's an visibility, and substantial. In China's foreign aid, we spent most of the money in the recipient country and not in our own experts. Asia and African countries are the major recipient countries of China's foreign aid. And Millennium Development Goals, China, to promote the realization of the Millennium Program, China directs most of the funds to low-income developing countries. From the year 2010 and 2012, China's foreign aid has kept growing. It's allocated in total 89.3 billion RMB yuan, equivalent to $14.4 billion for foreign aid in above mentioned 3 years. And its aid is provided in the three types. It's quite similar to Japan. Grants, interest-free loan, and concessional loan. And China's foreign aid is mainly provided in the following aspects. Part 1, helping improve people's livelihood. Firstly, promoting agricultural development. Agricultural development is crucial to poverty reduction in development countries. Through establishing agricultural technology demonstration centers, dispatching agricultural experts to provide consultations and conduct technical cooperation, and training technical and managerial personnel on agriculture in other developing countries. China has taken great efforts to help other developing countries to raise their agricultural productivity, to effectively cope with the food crisis. Second, improving the level of education. China continuously intensifies its efforts of foreign aid in education by ways of constructing and maintaining school buildings, providing teaching facilities, training teachers, offering more government scholarships for foreign students to study in China, and assisting with the development of vocational and technical education for the purpose of helping other developing countries to improve their educational level and support their balanced and equitable development in education. Third, improving medical and health services. Medical and healthcare is a major field where China directs its foreign aid. China helped recipient countries improving their medical and health services, raise their disease control and prevention ability, and enhance their public health capacity by constructing hospitals, providing medicine and medical equipment, dispatching medical teams, training medical workers, and conducting exchange and cooperation on disease prevention and treatment with other developing countries. Four, building public welfare facilities to support other developing countries to improve their livelihood and organizing public activities. China actively assists the construction of urban and rural public welfare facilities, affordable housing, and social activity venues, providing relevant equipment and materials, and conducted technical cooperation and operation and management. Five, humanitarian aid. When wars and natural disasters happen, China always makes quick response to the appeals of the international community by providing relief materials or cash aid, or dispatching rescue and medical teams as needed. Part two, promoting economic and social development. First, improving infrastructure. In light of the economic development of different countries, China arranged grants, interest-free loans, and concessional loans in a well-proportioned manner to help the recipient countries with much-needed infrastructure construction, including supporting development of transportation system, increasing energy supply capacity, promoting the development of information-based social societies. I would like to cite two examples. I find some African tenants here. China has got quite a few aid projects in African. There are two famous projects, which the first one is the railway between Tanzania to Zambia. This is a grant project. And also the International Convention Center of the African Union. All huge projects. And second, strengthening capacity building. Believing in the ancient Chinese wisdom and teaching one teaching one to fish rather than giving one fish. This is Chinese wisdom. The important experience. China shares experience and technology with other developing countries through human resources and technical cooperation, as well as through voluntary basis, to help the developing countries building up their own professional teams and enhancing the capacity. Third, promoting trade development. As an active response to the WTO's approval. China strengthened its assistance in infrastructure construction and productivity capacity building for other developing countries. China has also stepped zero tariff treatment to most of the LDCs. 4. Strengthening environmental protection. Last but not least, I would like to mention China's participation in international exchange and cooperation regarding development cooperation. You know, China has rendered support to took part in the development assistance programs sponsored by the multilateral and regional organizations such as WTO and UN, and by ways of voluntary donations and equity financing, etc. And also participating some international exchange for development cooperation, such like today's conference. Thirdly, conducting international cooperation in foreign assistance. Recently, on the trial basis, China has conducted trilateral cooperation featuring a complementary advantage with multilateral and bilateral assistance providers on the premise of full respecting the willingness of the recipient countries, including jointly holding training programs, for example, with UNDP, UNICEF, FAO, UNIDO, OCHA, CFC, and piloting trilateral cooperation, for example, with UNDP and Cambodia, with New Zealand and Cook Islands. In conclusion, China is willing to work with the international communities to share opportunities, meet challenges, strive to realize world's dream for lasting peace and common prosperity, and make great contribution to the development of the mankind. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Rubaya, for excellent intervention. And he, first of all, he mentioned about his personal experience of working with donors as a member of recipient country, and he said he received training in Japan, in Tokyo, for 3 years. Is that right? For 3 years?
No, for 3 weeks.
Oh, 3 weeks, I'm sorry. And he said China is the emerging and developing economy, and China is still quite, fragile in terms of poverty rate and poverty reduction. That's why poverty reduction is the vital important issue for China itself. China is still on UN's recipient list. And he emphasized China's aid is based on South-South cooperation. China's aid is unconditional, and there's no political condition imposed while giving aid to other countries. And Africa and Asia are the main destinations, main regions receiving Chinese aid. The aid mostly goes to low-income countries. In the last 3 years, China allocated $44.4 billion US dollars in terms of ODA. Right, that's 3 years. And the scheme is more or less just like what's implemented mentioned by Japanese colleague. The grant, concession loans, low interest loans, and there are sectors China is focusing on while giving ODA is to help improve the livelihood of the people. He mentioned about the agriculture project to recipient countries through capacity building in order to boost the production to generate income for the people there. And to improve, the second is improve the level of education, again, through capacity building, trainings, you know. And the healthcare and providing medical services is also an important part in terms of the Chinese ODA. They either provide equipment or dispatch medical teams. I remember in the early 1960s, China is very active in giving aid to African countries by dispatching, you know, medical teams. It's very quite influential and quite remarkable. And public welfare sector is also a very important part of Chinese ODA. And because you know, they help the people to you know, to build out the capacity of the countries in order to the people to have a affordable house to live. And the humanitarian aid also is a very important part of Chinese ODA. And he also mentioned about social infrastructure is the main sector of Chinese ODA. Also mentioned about aid for trade, which is also the concern of the DAC member countries, which been spelled for many years, you know, mentioned for many years. And he also mentioned about, you know, China is providing zero tariff, I mean, the policy for LDC countries recent years. And environmental protection is another major concern of Chinese government in foreign assistance. And also China is very keen on international cooperation with such as WTO, UN agencies by providing voluntary contributions. And lastly, he mentioned about the trilateral cooperation, bilateral cooperation. You know, he mentioned about those cooperation with UNICEF, UNIDO, OCHA, and UNDP. Thank you again, Mr. Zhu Guangya, for an excellent statement. And I'm not going to make a general remark for conclusion because I have, if you realize, I have made a brief conclusion after each speaker. So now we are well behind the time. I realize I'm quite aware of that, but we will still have some minutes for us to take some questions if there are any. The floor is open for questions. Okay, please.
My question refers to Mr. Carl Testensen. Sir, you said that you have 5-year experience in Afghanistan, that you were working in GIZ, that one of the assistants of Afghan government. And during past years, there was billions of dollars inflow in Afghanistan. And we also know that corruption increased day by day during that, with all that aids. And what was the reason for that, that with all these assistance that GIZ or many other organization was with Afghan government and all these corruptions and other things? Thank you.
Well, it's always a question of how you perceive that. I don't think that corruption is a matter that first came up to the surface after the international community went in. So I think what the international community and the international organizations tried to do was to implement and to work with the Afghan authorities on transparency, on good governance, and this also in the regions. One strong effort was subnational governance. However, you can imagine that if you have provinces breaking away where you can't get in anymore, then it is also very difficult to continue with these implementations. So it has been a long way, and it still is a long way. But I guess there's not really an alternative to keeping on getting these transparent structures working in Afghanistan, and this is what we are doing. And I would say the whole international community is working very hard on that.
I'm from Afghanistan. My question refers to His Excellency Manazir AHSAN. I wonder, I'm wondering about the function of the organization that are working for Muslim countries, especially OIC, IDB, and Islamic Development Bank. And Muslim is that you're head of, you're leading the organization. We have words in our local language that prevention is more better than treating. So this crisis that's happening in Middle East and Asia since a long time ago, then it's a crisis happening, and after that all the organization is running for the help, like they are working to calling that we are coming here to help you. Then what's the reason for this crisis that's happening? If this crisis happening, what's the reason, or why these more Muslim more aids or Islamic organization is not able to prevent this crisis? Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for raising this. This is a very important question. Unfortunately, I am not qualified to answer this direct way. But this is again, of course, the Muslim countries which are involved in conflicts, and of course, which is resulting in war and then civil war. It is the charity organizations all over the world are trying to rushing with the help, whatever they can, of course, organize locally or internationally, nationally. This is again something, I mean, we have a OIC organization, which is consisting of almost 56 Muslim countries. It is their role that they should try to sort out the difficulties and problems and war or civil wars going on all along in the Middle East. Unfortunately, we are a humble, small organization called Muslim Aid. We are trying to raise the awareness in the community, as well as in the Muslim community, as well as the wider community, that this is the crisis which has been, of course, imposed upon the world, and especially the people who are living in the area. Now we need to come and help them as much as possible. We cannot prevent it because we have nothing to do with these things. We are just aid giving and, of course, sustainable, aid, whatever it is possible. I mentioned that one of the things which we are trying to do is to protect and giving care to the orphans, which are the victims of the war, as well as, of course, as much as possible, like when there was a problem with the Gaza, and then there was a Muslim community and others came up with a huge amount of help, and slowly and gradually we're trying to bring them the basic needs of healthcare, the problems, all these things. But it is the Muslim world which are now responsible to help them generously. Many of these NGOs cannot do more than that. What we're doing is that some of the drops of the ocean, and it needs to be looked into wider context, that not only the Muslim world, but the entire world. This is a kind of global crisis now. And how to sort it out, and it is their responsibility. If they want our support and help in the humanitarian and, of course, other aspects, we are ready to do that. Thank you.
Does that your organization have the future plan to cooperate with the OIC and other Islamic organizations to prevent from the other crises that may happen in Bahrain and other countries in the Middle East?
Yes, of course. Whatever we have our approach, I mean, we are approaching the IDB as well as OIC as well as Islamic organizations and banks, telling them about this apprehension which the Muslim community as well as the whole world is passing through. But of course, we don't have any leverage on them, you see. They are the independent, they are the world power, whatever they are, and they have got the resources. So we cannot do more than that, request them, approach them, and tell them that this is a crisis which is looming. Sometimes the crisis now, for example, in Yemen, in Libya, we never thought that a crisis of this nature will occur there, you see, which is we're now seeing it day by day. In Tunisia, all of a sudden, we have seen this type of terrorist attacks. And now in the whole Middle East, it is spreading like a cancer, as it were. So therefore, we are all aware and trying to do, but we are not holding the power. We don't have that we can tell the OIC, please do it. It is the Muslim countries themselves have to come to the occasion and have to take necessary action. Thank you.
Okay, that's so we'll get the last question.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My question goes to Mr. Hu from China. Mr. Hu, you reminded us the old saying, teaching someone how to fish is more important than giving a fish. In terms of your activities towards African countries, can you elaborate more on, can you give us more detail on how, in what volume and how your African counterparts, so to say, learning how to fish? Can you give us a little bit more detail about your collaboration with African counterparts? Thank you.
Actually, you know, in my ministry, we have a big fund for the foreign aid. A great proportion of this fund is used for human development. You know, every year we have many training courses in Beijing, multilateral courses or bilateral courses. Including Turkey. Turkey, every year there are more than a dozen people to participate in the training courses in China in different aspects. I think those participants has learned a lot from China. Some of the participants even, you know, even becomes presidents, prime ministers. Of some countries. Thank you.
Okay, no more questions. Well, okay. Just last one, okay.
Thank you. I just have a general question. I realize the timing is wrong, so I just want to put it on the table, and perhaps, you know, later on we can sort of have opportunity to discuss. Is that in the context of the coming SDGs, you know, I was just wondering from the donors, from the you know, the donor agencies as well as from private aid, you know, how would that coming SDGs affect in terms of your priorities, operational priorities, and how would that affect your modus operandi? You know, I just need to have a yes and no. I don't need to really get into the details. So that's the, I think, only time allowed for. Thank you.
Well, I guess if I can, well, of course, only say it for GSZ, we are, of course, executing the policy that is defined by the German government. And if the German government consider it necessary, and they will, I guess, but I cannot talk for the German government, if the German government let's say, has a new strategy, then of course GSZ will follow that. And yeah, but it is not the decision of GSZ. So yes.
Well, I don't have much to add to what has been said. You see, this is a crisis. Those of us who are, of course, running some charities, we have our own, organizations of charity associations. We're trying to look into all these things, but this is the governmental level. We have to address this issue, and if they fail, there will be the is looming on the horizon. And I think the sooner these things are of course, attended or addressed, this better. Thank you.
Yes, I also want to delegate to the political level. Thank you.
Well, I mean, just to say that in the first round of MDGs, it was very important for Mexican political internal, for Mexican policy, internal policy, social policy especially. The difference now between 2000 and 2015 is that Mexico has to apply not only the SDGs to its own internal domestic policy, but also as a donor. And I mean, I'm sure it's going to affect first the internal, but also in a way also our cooperation policies.
Well, to wrap up, just a final sentence. Today, really, it's been a long day, and it's the most, longest panel today. And we really had a lovely, lively, and fruitful discussion today. And just to close the session, I'd like to borrow a proverb, African proverb, used by British minister in charge of development cooperation last year in Mexico City. It goes like this: if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go further, go together. Thank you very much.